How to choose the right bagged soil for your plants. Welcome to the Soil Science Garden. If you've ever stood in the garden center, just staring at stacks of colorful bags labeled potting mix, garden soil, topsoil, and planting mix, well, you're definitely not alone. One of the most common questions I hear from fellow gardeners is, which bagged soil should I actually buy? And here's the truth I always share on the Soil Science Garden. Choosing the wrong soil can hold your plants back, no matter how good your seeds, fertilizer, or watering routine are. So today, let's break this down together, soil science style. By the end of this guide, you'll know exactly what to look for, what to avoid, and how to match the right bagged soil to the right plant, whether you're growing vegetables, flowers, houseplants, or container gardens. This is your evergreen guide to buying bagged soil with confidence. Soil is not just something plants sit in. It's their entire life support system. It controls water retention, airflow, nutrient availability, root development, and even disease resistance. The difference between struggling plants and thriving ones often comes down to what's inside that bag. You know, a lot of gardeners just figure soil is soil, but honestly, from a soil science perspective, those bagged products can be pretty different in terms of structure, organic content, drainage ability, and even microbial activity. Understanding these differences, well, that's really the first step toward healthier plants and a lot fewer frustrations down the road. Before you even glance at those labels, ask yourself one simple question. Where will this soil be used? If you're growing in containers, you need a lightweight mix that drains well and lets oxygen get to the roots. Now, if you're planting straight in the ground, you want a soil that improves structure and blends in with your native soil. Raised beds, they're kind of in the middle. They need to hold on to moisture, but still drain well. Choosing soil without thinking about the environment is, well, like buying shoes without knowing your size. Always match the soil to the growing situation first. Let's break down what you'll find at the store. Potting mix is made for containers. It's usually a blend of things like peat moss or cocoa coir, compost, bark, and perlite or vermiculite. Good potting mix feels light, fluffy, and airy. So, if you're growing in pots, that's your best bet. Garden soil is meant for mixing into outdoor beds. It's heavier than potting mix, often has compost and soil-based materials. One common mistake is using garden soil in containers. It compacts real easy and can suffocate roots. Now, topsoil, that's probably the most misunderstood product. A lot of bags labeled topsoil are just screened native soil with not much organic matter. It can help for leveling or filling low spots, but honestly, it's rarely ideal for planting on its own. Raised bed mix is specially blended to balance moisture retention and drainage. A good raised bed mix should have compost, organic matter, and something for aeration. Just knowing these categories, well, that'll help you avoid most soil buying mistakes. The front of the bag is marketing. The back is science. Look for ingredients like compost, aged bark, peat moss, cocoa coir, perlite, vermiculite, or other aeration materials. These components create the structure roots need. Be cautious of bags that list mostly soil, sand, or forest products without detail. These can be dense and low in nutrients. If the bag feels extremely heavy for its size, it's often a sign that it contains too much mineral soil and not enough organic material. Good growing mixes should feel light and airy. Different plants have different root needs, and this is where many gardeners overlook an important detail. Vegetables prefer soil rich in organic matter that holds moisture but still drains well. Look for mixes with compost and slow-release nutrients. Succulents and cacti need fast-draining soil. Standard potting mix holds too much moisture for them. Choose a cactus or succulent mix or amend regular potting soil with extra perlite or coarse sand. Flowering plants benefit from nutrient-rich mixes with good structure to support consistent growth. Houseplants typically prefer lighter mixes that balance moisture retention with airflow, especially for tropical species. Matching soil to plant type improves root health, which directly improves plant performance above the surface. One of the easiest ways to judge bagged soil is by texture. When you open a bag, the soil should crumble easily in your hand. It should not feel sticky, muddy, or compacted. You should see visible particles like bark or perlite that create air pockets. Roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. Poorly aerated soil leads to root rot, slow growth, and nutrient problems. This is especially important for container gardening, where drainage conditions are controlled entirely by the soil you choose. Some soils hold too much water, while others dry out too quickly. The goal is balance. Peat moss and cocoa coir help retain moisture, which is helpful in hot climates or for thirsty plants like vegetables. Perlite and bark improve drainage and prevent waterlogging. If you garden in a warm or dry region, slightly higher moisture retention is beneficial. If your area is humid or you tend to overwater, choose a lighter, more free-draining mix. Understanding your watering habits is part of choosing the right soil. Not all bagged soils are created equal, and, honestly, extremely cheap products often end up costing more in the long run. Low-quality soils might contain undecomposed wood, too much sand, or, really, just the bare minimum of organic matter. These kinds of mixes break down pretty quickly, compact over time, and can lack the nutrients your plants need. A good test is to compare the volume versus the weight. If a large bag feels unusually heavy and dense, chances are it just doesn't have the organic structure your plants need. Investing in quality soil, I'd say, is one of the highest return decisions you can make in gardening. Some bagged soils come with added fertilizers, while others are what we call nutrient neutral. If you're planting vegetables or annual flowers, a mix with slow-release nutrients can really give your plants a strong start. But for houseplants or long-term container gardening, you may want a neutral mix so you can control the feeding yourself. Always check the label for added fertilizers and how long they last. Most pre-mixed nutrients will support your plants for about 4 to 8 weeks. Remember, soil structure is more important than nutrient content. Fertilizer can always be added later, but poor structure is much harder to fix. Organic bagged soils, avoid synthetic fertilizers and chemical additives. They rely on compost, natural amendments, and biological activity to feed your plants. If you're growing edible crops or just prefer a natural gardening approach, organic mixes are definitely worth considering. They also tend to support beneficial microbes that over time improve soil health. Still, the most important thing is always quality and structure. Whether organic or conventional, the mix should be well balanced and well aerated. Healthy soil just smells earthy and fresh. If a bag smells sour, rotten, or has a strong chemical odor, that's usually a sign of poor composting or low-quality materials. Trust your senses. Good soil should remind you of a forest floor, not a swamp. One common mistake is underestimating volume. Container gardening, raised beds, and large pots always seem to need more soil than you'd think. Before you buy, calculate the volume of your containers or beds, and check the bag size in liters or cubic feet. Buying the right amount up front saves you time and helps keep your growing mix consistent. Even good bagged soil can, and probably should, be improved depending on what you're growing. Adding extra compost boosts fertility and increases microbial life. Mixing in perlite helps with drainage, especially for plants that don't like wet feet. Cocoa coir can help retain moisture if you're gardening in a hot climate. Just think of bagged soil as a base, not the final product. Small adjustments can really make it perfect for your garden. One of the biggest mistakes folks make is using garden soil in containers. It compacts fast and restricts airflow. Another common issue is reusing old potting soil without refreshing it. Over time, organic materials break down and the structure collapses. If you do reuse soil, always mix in fresh compost and something for aeration. And finally, don't pick your soil just by the brand name or flashy packaging. Always evaluate what's actually in the bag and the structure first. When you pick up a bag, ask yourself, is it designed for my growing environment? Does it feel light and airy? Are the ingredients clearly listed? Does it contain organic matter and aeration materials? Does it match the needs of my plants? If you can answer yes to all those, you've probably found a good product. Final thoughts. Soil is your garden's foundation. Here on the Soil Science Garden, we always come back to one principle. Healthy soil grows healthy plants. The right bagged soil saves you time, reduces problems, and gives your plants the strong start they deserve. Instead of guessing at the garden center, you now have the knowledge to choose soil like a soil scientist, matching structure, drainage, nutrients, and environment to your specific plants. And once you experience the difference good soil makes, you'll never look at those bags quite the same way again. If you found this guide helpful and want more practical science-based gardening tips, make sure you subscribe to the Soil Science Garden. Share this with a fellow gardener who's ever wondered which soil to buy, and let's keep growing smarter, healthier gardens together.